Hi everyone, I'm Zoe Morgan and I'm the curriculum specialist here at Prairie.
And I'm Michelle Morton. I work as nature engagement specialist here.
We'd love to welcome you for some birding here at Prairie, but if you can't join us in person, we'd love to offer some tips and tricks for how you can bird anywhere outside. But before we start, we actually use the term birding here at Prairie, and we're going to get into why we prefer birding instead of bird watching.
Some people use birding and bird watching interchangeably, and that's totally fine. Some other people choose to use birding to signify a more serious or kind of cognitive academic pursuit, while bird watching is seen as more of a hobby or more casual. We choose to use the term birding intentionally because we feel that it's more inclusive. To say bird watching can indicate that you're only using your sense of sight, and that might not be available to some people. And so when we say birding, it indicates that you might be using your sense of sight, your ears to listen, even your heart sense to notice how observing the birds makes you feel.
So as we go birding today, you might notice that we have a pair of binoculars on us. However, to start noticing the birds around you, you don't need binoculars at all.
The first thing I like to start with, if it's accessible to you, is just to use your ears and just to listen. Depending on where you are, you might even want to close your eyes or soften your gaze. And just notice the different bird sounds you hear around you. Some might be calls, some might be songs. You might hear a repeating pattern. Just enjoy those sounds. And after a little bit, let your eyes start to follow where the sound is coming from. And then if you're inspired to really start using your eyes to find the birds, of course, looking for where that sound is coming from, looking for movement, sometimes looking up in a tree, seeing a bird hopping around on a branch, or sometimes birds like to spend time down on the ground. Of course, you might glimpse birds flying through the air. So just notice some movement. Notice if it's fast movement or kind of slow, or if a bird is just perched and preening themselves. So just let your eyes explore what you're seeing. And then I also suggest just following your heart, noticing how looking or listening to the birds is making you feel, what it reminds you of. Maybe it makes you curious to learn the name of the bird. Maybe you're just going to sink into that feeling of enjoying its beauty and just noticing the awe and wonder of these special, beautiful creatures.
So if you do want to identify the bird, we love to use Merlin identification app by the Cornell Lab. And there are 3 different ways that you can identify these birds. You can do it by sound, you can do step by step, and you can do photo. My favorite way is actually the sound identification. We like to call it Shazam for birds. And we'll demo that right now. So if you click on Sound ID, it will pick up the birds that you're hearing, and it will highlight when you're hearing them. Okay, so let's say that we did see a bird and we want to know what it is. I actually think that I might see a little bit of red in that tree over there. So I'm going to use the step-by-step ID to see if I can identify that bird. So I'm going to go here. Where did I see the bird? It's going to ask for my current location. When did I see the bird? Today, April 23rd. And what was the size of the bird? Now, I think that it may have been between a sparrow and a robin. I'm going to click on that. And then what color did I see? Well, I know that I saw red. Maybe I saw a little black as well. And I think maybe I saw a little yellow in the beak. So I'm going to click those 3 colors. Where did I see it? Well, I think I just saw it in the tree over there. There are all these different options: eating at a feeder, swimming or wading, on the ground, in trees or bushes, on a fence or wire, soaring or flying. But again, I saw it in the trees over there, so I'm going to click that one. And it's going to give me a possible list of options. Now, red-winged blackbird. Now, the bird that I saw wasn't completely black like that. It was more so red. So I don't think that it was that bird. However, I do think that it was this one. It was mostly red. It had that little black there that I mentioned in the colors before. And the beak, actually, I was wrong about this. Instead of being that yellow color, it was actually orange. However, I'm pretty positive that that was my bird. So I'm going to click that. And it says, looks like you saw the bird here at the White River, which we are at the White River. And next, confirm sighting. Sighting saved. And I've seen this bird before, so it's already on my life list. But another thing that I love about this app is that it will actually keep track of all the birds that you saw. So again, I've seen the northern cardinal before, but it's kept track of all the birds that I've seen since I've started birding.
Some people choose to keep a life list. I do. It's just a reminder of when I first saw that bird, sometimes who I was with when I saw them. And when people see new birds, they often refer to them as a lifer. Like, oh, that new bird was a lifer for me. And there's a lot of joy and excitement in that. A few years ago, I was listening to a webinar with Drew Lanham, and he was talking about how sometimes life lists can be problematic because it becomes a little bit competitive of trying to see the bird, and you're maybe more focused on the bird than feeling safe out in nature or appreciating who you're with. And I remember him speaking that as a Black man, he doesn't always feel safe birding. And so he chooses to think of his life list rather than just naming the birds that he's seen. It's more about naming the people and the spaces where he felt safe. And so for him, it's kind of a reminder of who he was with, where he was, and how they were safely and inclusively appreciating the bird together. And so for me, I've really taken that on as well, that when I do see a new bird, I'll look at the date to remember, okay, when was it and where was I? But it's very much about who was I with, was I feeling safe, what do I remember about the bird, and appreciating the bird.
If you haven't listened to our curious conversation about how we got into birding and the importance of Black Birders Week, I highly recommend that you check that out. You'll hear both of our spark birds and stories about how we got into birding. But that first bird that I mentioned, it was actually the bald eagle that I saw February 12th, 2023. And that date is very important to me, and that bird is important to me because I saw that with Michelle. So again, it was a very meaningful experience, one that I will really never forget.
While you don't have to use binoculars for birding, some people choose to use them. So a few reminders for when you are using them. Firstly, you definitely want to have the strap around your neck. Secondly, always keep your eye on the bird and then bring the binoculars up to your eyes. So let's say I found a little bird, I see it hopping around on a branch over there. I'm going to keep my eyes following the bird and then bring my binoculars up to my eyes and get it on the bird. There's a little knob at the top by my pointer finger that I can use to go back and forth to help it go from blurry to clear, to really help me focus. And then I can use the binoculars to follow the bird as it's hopping around on a branch. Another thing to think about is if you're new to using binoculars, many of them twist up and down like this. If you wear glasses, you're going to want to keep them twisted down. If you don't wear glasses, you'll twist them up. And that just helps it feel comfortable and helps the optics work right for your eyes. For kids who like to bird, there are some binoculars that are appropriate for kids. But you can also just make your own binoculars, get 2 rolls of toilet paper and tape them together, and then kids can decorate them. And that's more about just helping them use the tool to focus. It's not going to help them see any farther. So if you choose to use binoculars, there's just some reminders and some helpful tips on how to use them.
So you can go birding anywhere, any time of year. Really anywhere outside. You can go birding in your backyard. You can go birding at lunchtime. You can go birding in a park, in an urban space, really any blue or green space. Birding doesn't always have to be a 2-hour event, and it doesn't always have to be a walk. You can even do it from inside. One of the things that I like to do is at my lunchtime, I have this nice window where I'll eat, and I like to look outside and see what birds I notice. I'm not always focusing on the identification, but sometimes focusing again on just the movement that I see and maybe how I feel during lunch. It really helps calm me and focus me for the next part of my day. But if you're wanting to feel safe and you're also seeking community, if you're birding in a park or you're walking in a park and you see a group of people with binoculars staring up at the sky or in a tree or in a bush, whatever it is, definitely join that group. Again, it will help you maybe find your birding community, and you'll feel a lot more safe going birding together than going birding alone.
One routine that I really like to use is called a sit spot, where you just find a comfortable place and you just sit for a while, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And you do this repeatedly as just a way to connect with the space and connect with the birds around you. The longer you sit in one space, the wildlife is going to come alive around you, and you'll just start to notice what their everyday life is like, and you get to witness and be an observer to this beautiful bird life that's happening around us all the time. And then finally, if you find that your thoughts are kind of wandering somewhere else, and maybe you're thinking about work or your to-do list and you want to come back to the moment, just focus on your senses. Focus on the birds that you're seeing, the movement you're seeing, focus on those bird sounds and bird calls, and just give yourself some time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to just be in that spot where you feel safe, where you feel connected to the space around you, and just enjoy the birds.
We hope that you found this video helpful, but most importantly, we just want you to get outside, get out in nature, listen to the birds, feel the trees, feel the wind, but do so in a place that feels safe for you and that feels the most joyful for you. If you are located here in central Indiana, we'd love for you to join us out here at Prairie, and we'll take you birding. You can even borrow some binoculars. If you're located outside of central Indiana, be sure to check out Black AF and STEM for any birding events that might take place near you. Happy birding!
Happy birding!